Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to be bottling up our mead, and I thought I would take you along for the journey. So I have received lots of requests. I often share on Instagram just snippets and photos of our mead making. And I've been requested to do tutorial videos. And to be honest, guys, we've only been doing this for a couple of years, and I don't feel that my knowledge in terms of mead making, wine making is really where it should be to create like a full tutorial, but I will kind of go into some details with you today. We are definitely amateurs. We do not have all of the fancy equipment. Like, you can buy equipment that actually measures alcohol percentage and all that kind of stuff. We don't have any of that. We're kicking it pretty old school. We do have some basic equipment that I will show you and explain some of the different types we've made and some of the things that we have learned along the way. So again, this isn't really a tutorial. This is hopefully just to inspire you and show you what's going on our homestead right now. So one of the first things I want to talk about is what the heck is mead, right? A lot of people, if you are of Germanic and Scandinavian descent like I am, you have likely heard of mead. Mead is a fermented honey wine. So instead of fermenting grapes, they fermented honey. And a true mead doesn't have any fruit or anything like that in it. Once you start flavoring it with fruit, which we often do, it's then called a mellow. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. So we use something called carboys, which are large. I think they're 4 liters. So I think that's 1 gallon. Jars. We have airlocks, and we do have some basic siphoning and kind of like pumping materials to move the meads from the carboys into the bottles. So I'll kind of show you a bit of that process and what we have going on. So these are the 3 batches of mead we have currently going. So these large glass bottles here are called carboys. They are 3.78 liters, which I believe is equivalent to 1 gallon. Yeah, it says right on the bottle. That's awesome. So this is a rhubarb mead, and this is our dandelion flower mead. And I made these early on in the season, and so they are done fermenting and we're ready to bottle these now. These are called airlocks. I think there's actually terms for the little cork thing as well, but what they do is they prevent bacteria from getting into your meads, but allow all of the gas through the fermentation process to escape out the top. If you can actually show them, there's little holes in the top, and that's where the gas escapes from. So you're going to get, like, if we take a look at the rhubarb one here, you're going to see sediment and all this stuff. Guys, resist the urge. Do not take the lid off and start cleaning that out because it, quote, looks dirty, right? That's just part of the fermentation process. You really don't want to have added bacteria going into your mead. But because we don't have a wine fridge, for us, it's important. Like, my husband's showing you the strawberry mead now. It's still very active. This would not be the right time for us to bottle this. And you can see it in the airlock. There's a lot of movement. There's still gas being created. We don't have a wine fridge. Refrigeration stops fermentation processes. Because we don't have a wine fridge and we're storing all of these at room temperature, if we were to say bottle the strawberry mead right now, it would continue to ferment and the results could be explosive. So we're waiting for that to be completely ready. Like I said, we're going to bottle up the dandelion mead today and the rhubarb mead. I encourage you to look at recipes online. There's lots of people. I'll try to put some links below of some of the recipes that I followed. But once you get the basic process, you can start tinkering and adding in your own flavors. You are going to need some basic equipment. Again, things like carboys. You're going to need your airlocks. You're going to need sterilization of some kind. So we really like this one-step stuff. It's what everybody recommends. And so you're going to have to sterilize everything. You're going to have to sterilize your airlocks, your bottles, your wine bottles, and your hoses and your auto siphons. So what we're doing today is called racking. That's what we're going to be working on today, which is a fancy word for saying I'm moving my mead from the big bottle to the little bottles. And then if you choose to get a corker, we found it to be a good investment because for the life of us, we could not get the corks in the bottles without the corker. It was just not possible. So we invested in one of those as well. I think I've covered pretty much everything. I'm going to stop talking and we're going to show you the process. It's probably going to get messy. Like I said, we're not experts at all, but I just thought it would be fun to take you along on some of the projects that we do around here on our homestead. One really quick segment before we get to racking our mead. Do you see these sediments that have floated? They're or not floated, they have sunk to the bottom of the carboy. You can really see it pronounced in the dandelion flower one. There's a little bit starting on the strawberry as well. These add bitterness, I believe. Someone correct me, again, not an expert, but you don't want these in your finished bottles. So when you're siphoning off your mead into your bottles, you don't want to suck this stuff up. So it's important not to put the hose all the way down to the bottom. That's one of the things I do remember from doing this last year. All right, so we've already racked, bottled up our rhubarb mead. We did that first because we didn't want to look like idiots on camera because we couldn't remember how to do this. So this fancy doodad here that's inside the mead right now is the auto siphon. I cannot remember what this funky little tool is called, but what this does is it stops the flow into the bottle. So that way I can then move this into the next bottle, and we'll actually show you guys this process, but we have to do it with the camera further away. So we have our wine bottles that are sterilized and ready to go. You could use like a Grolsch style flip top with those airlock bottles. You could totally do that instead of getting wine bottles and corks and then having to cork them all. That's perfectly acceptable. Now, I was doing some reading. If you find your mead too dry and you want to back sweeten it, meaning you want to add some sweetener, you're going to have to do some research on that. You're going to need something called potassium sorbate, which will stop the fermentation process. Because if I add more sugar to this, it's going to kickstart that fermentation process again, which we don't want, because remember, explosive bottles. So we're going to get to bottling, and you guys can just watch what we're doing. Hopefully we won't screw up too badly. I wish I could get close-ups, but it does take two of us to do this. I'll get my husband to show you. We actually have like a honey bucket on the ground here because gravity really helps. We're going to put the bottles on the ground, and whatever this funky doodad tool is,
racking tool.
It's whatever the racking tool, but I think it has a specific name. But anyway.
There's a little stopper on the bottom of that thing that stops it from like overflowing.
Yeah, and then as soon as I pull it up, it actually stops filling, which is really nice because I can then move it to the next bottle. So we'll get that filming and show you guys how we do this. All right, so my husband is starting up the auto siphon, and once the tube fills, he actually won't have to pump anymore. Yeah, the bottle is already filming. I hope this shows up on camera. I know I'm pretty far away. So it's already filming. Filling, sorry. And once it gets to a point where I want, and I'm seeing a bit of dandelion in here, so I don't care. But what you could do is actually rack it over to another carboy to filter out the dandelion and then put it in bottles. But like I said, I don't really care. Do you?
I don't care.
No. So I need a bit of help. So that, see, as you can see, it's not really flowing anymore. And then I put it into the next bottle. Once I put this and it touches the bottom, it just starts to fill. It's kind of beautiful. So yeah, here we are. Is it good?
That's good, yeah.
We tasted the rhubarb mead. It's a little dry, but I don't mind it. I don't actually want it too sweet. The ones where you use sweeter fruit, things like blueberries and strawberries, you're going to get a sweeter end product.
That's pretty bitter because it's dandelion.
Is it bitter?
Yeah, it's dry. Like it.
That's not the same thing.
I'm not a wine guy.
You're not a wine guy? All right, there we are. So with the rhubarb mead, we got 4 bottles. So we're anticipating about 4 this time too. We'll see. The rhubarb actually took up a lot more space in the carboy. So we might end up getting more bottles this time. We'll see. My son is watching us from behind the camera. All right. Oh. That is awkward. This is very awkward.
Yeah, why do we do it differently in the last bottle?
No idea. All right, and we're filling up that last bottle. And again, we're trying to avoid getting that sediment in. And so you're probably not going to have enough for 5 bottles. I doubt we will. So what we'll probably do is just pour some into a mason jar. If you choose to drink it right now, this would what we would call green mead. and meaning it hasn't been aged. A lot of people prefer to actually age their mead. So you would cork it and leave it for a few months, up to a year, even longer. Oh, this is still pouring, hun. It's still pouring. I need something to put this into. And I think we're gonna stop filming here. Kiddo, can you press stop? All right, so the boys are using the corker. Kiddo is holding the bottle in place. Don't get knocked in the head by your daddy. He has to take a lot of pressure to put that cork in. There it goes. So there is absolutely no way to fit a cork in there without a corker. Trust me, we tried. We went onto YouTube. We watched how many different videos? We looked at so many different things, and what we ended up doing was putting tin foil on top of all these bottles and driving out to Lindsay, Ontario to buy a corker from a local wine store, because there was no way to get a cork in. At least we couldn't do it without a corker. So there you go. The dandelion mead made 4 bottles plus this little Grosch bottle. And as you can see, the color is almost identical to the rhubarb. So we're going to get to labeling right after this, so make sure we don't mix them up. There you have it, folks. 4 bottles of dandelion mead, all bottled and corked up. So all the bottling of mead has me inspired. Oh, and there you are. Over my shoulder, you can see that I am now working on a batch of elderberry mead. Now, elderberries are a little bit different because you do have to cook them first. So essentially, you're going to make an elderberry juice. And then elderberries themselves don't have a lot of sweetness. So I'll probably do 3.5, 4 cups of honey, whereas I did 3 cups of honey for the rhubarb and the dandelion. This one I'll probably do 4. I'll see. See what it feels like. And then you just add your champagne yeast to it, and you've got mead. I mean, I made it sound really simple, but Practical Self-Reliance, Amber Pixie Pocket, those are both great websites. They've got lots of free mead making recipes on them, and I'll make sure I link that below. So there you have it. Mead bottling. It wasn't too difficult. There weren't too many swear words or anything like that. It actually went really, really well. And I just wanted to say thanks for joining me on yet another Spirea vlog.